Today, what I'm going to talk about something that might surprise you, okay? Because most construction budget, they does not fail on the job site. They fail before construction even begins. And that is something that is super important for people to understand. Construction budget, most of the time, they're not failing on the job site. They already start failing before the construction even starts, right? Why most budgets fail before construction start? Because by the time you even lay the first block, the problem is already locked in, right? So tonight we will be going through some numbers, okay? We will be going through some numbers. I will show you exactly why budgets fail early, why homeowners don't see it coming, and how to fix it before it becomes expensive. Okay? Because the longer something persists, is the more expensive it can get. Okay? And let me introduce myself. If there's anyone here that doesn't know who I am, my name is Quasi Barry, and I'm the founder and the owner of Back Home Developments and also the founder of Pristine Ridge Homes. We'll talk about Pristine Ridge Home in a little bit because Pristine Ridge Homes is designed to help people who have between 150,000 US and 250,000 US dollars. That is the sweet spot, okay? They're designed to help people in that range and people who qualify for bank loans. And as you know, the bank lending criteria in Guyana is between 30 million and 40 million dollars. That is their sweet spot. So Pristine Ridge Homes is specifically designed and tailored towards that. So if you're watching, we have some big announcement coming about Pristine Ridge. We have you know what? Let me don't let me don't tell you guys what's going on with Pristine Ridge Home. You have to keep watching the live stream. There's gonna be some big announcement. We have a lot of things that you guys are gonna be excited about for 2026. Okay, so let's get into it. The last two live streams, we talk about what it really takes to finish a home in 2026 and what it means to be build ready. Okay, super important. Tonight is going to be a little bit different. We still getting build ready, but tonight we're going to dive a step deeper into the numbers. And as you know, numbers does not lie. Okay, so we want to get into those numbers because most people don't overspend because they are reckless when they're building their home. Okay, most people don't overspend because they're reckless. They overspend because their budget was never real to begin with. That is the biggest problem. Most people budgets are not real. They have an idea. Some people don't even have an idea what it's going to cost, but their budget is not real to begin with. Okay, let me get to this because this is new. So I have a full slide I'm going to be going through with you guys. So here we are. Okay, most budgets don't fail on site. Okay, like I said, they fail in the planning phase. By the time construction start, the outcome has already been decided. And this is not because people are reckless. Okay? It is because people don't plan properly. Right? So if you're planning to build in 2026 and beyond, especially if you're working with a bank loan, this life is for you. This life is going to be critical because it will show you what to look for with these so-called bank loans, right? Because there's a big myth out there. If the bank approved the loan, the budget is fine, okay? Approve does not equal availability, affordability. Okay, that's a myth. And I'll tell you, I talk to people every day. Okay, I have several consultations a day, and we have several a week with people who have bank loan, people who start their homes with bank loan, people who are crying at night, people who cannot sleep because the bank loan is not enough. The bank started to take their monthly payment, and they cannot afford to finish the home. They're paying on they're paying a mortgage for an unfinished building. So imagine you're paying a mortgage on a building that is not finished. Okay? Just imagine that. That is super important, right? Because the biggest thing is if your budget is wrong at the planning phase, at the beginning of construction, there's nothing no contractor, no architect, or no miracle can fix later. Okay? If your budget is wrong at the planning phase, no one can fix it later, right? And this is something that is super important. I talk about budgets a lot, even when my clients start, okay? We spend so much time making sure that the budget is aligned with their vision and what they want to get done, right? That's super important. We spend more time aligning the budget than we spend time designing. Because once the budget is aligned, the design becomes easy. Okay? Because budget are not based on estimates, guys. And that's where people think that the budget is based on an estimate. Budgets are based on scope, right? Budgets are not based on estimates. Budgets are based on scope. Let's go through this because people don't and I'm glad that we're on YouTube and we're able to do this. You guys put something in the chat. If you guys like what I'm doing here, if you guys want to see more of this, this is not perfect, but it's something that I can put on the screen and you guys can see what we're working with, okay? Right? Because the first reason budget fail is simple because they're based on estimate, not on the scope of work. Right? Most budgets start with square footage, a rough engineer estimate, right? And some neighbors' past experience. But an estimate does not tell you what finishes are included in your price. That's why it's called an estimate. Give me an estimate. What do you think it's going to cost? Oh, it's just an idea. Okay? An estimate is just a rough average, to put it simple. Right? But when it comes to scope, estimate doesn't tell you what finishes are included, what windows you're going to be using, what's your roof type or roof system choice, what's your kitchen level, whether it's a high-end kitchen, a mid-level kitchen, or a entry-level kitchen. Estimate does not tell you what site work is required. So if you look at the image that I have on the screen, estimate, square footage rate, rough engineer number, old market pricing, and most importantly, guesswork, right? But a budget, on the other hand, a budget is define the scope of work. Okay? All of your finishes is chosen up front. The site cost is included. And most importantly, the budget have a timeline plus a buffer included in the price. Okay? A buffer is there just in case construction do what construction always do. Construction always finds something that costs more money. That's why you want to have that buffer in place. Okay? Right? So the real number is not the estimated number. The real number is included in a detailed budget. Okay? right? Because um, the budget, a real budget is not a number. A real budget, it's a list of decisions that needs to be made in order for the project to move along smoothly and gets finished. It's not only about, $20,000 here, $10,000 there. No, it is a list of decisions that needs to be sequenced properly. Okay, right? Hit the like button if you guys are liking the stream so far, guys. Okay, right? If you guys like what I'm doing, hit the like button because we only gonna get better with time. This is our first time streaming on YouTube, but it's a better platform than Facebook when it comes to live streaming. Okay, right? Now we want to talk about where budgets actually breaks quietly. Okay, because the budget doesn't break loud, doesn't break all at once. Okay, right? This is what people budget for. They budget for foundation. They budget for blocks and roof. But the finishes they treat the finishes like an afterthought. Okay? They treat finishes like an afterthought, and that is a big problem. Okay? You cannot treat the finishes like an afterthought. The finishing has to be front and center because it is an important part of finishing the house. And that is where people budget starts to break down. Okay? Because all they cater for is for foundation, blocks, and roof. Some people don't even include windows in their budget. Let me see if I think I have a slide. Okay? Some people don't even include windows in their budget. And finishes is 30 to 50% of the total budget cost. Okay? And this is not, and this is when you, 50% is when you're dealing with low or average to mid level finishes. When you're talking about high end luxury finishes, the finish budget can go all the way to 60 percent of the total build cost, right? Let me get some water, right? So windows and doors has to be included in the cost. Finishes should not be treated like an afterthought, okay? Because you need about 30 to 50% of your total budget for things like, okay, things like your tiles, your windows, your doors, your lighting, your kitchen cabinetry, all of your millwork, your wardrobe, your plumbing fixtures, your electrical finishes, your switches, your lights, all that good stuff. Okay, paint. Okay, paint is another big budget item. A house is not finished until it's painted, right? And those are things that needs to be a part of your budget, right? So if these things they're not specified early, the budget is already lying to you guys. Okay? If these things are not specified early, your budget is already lying to you because the budget is not real. And that's why I say earlier in the stream that budgets break down before construction even begin. Okay? Right? Because every time you say we'll choose this later or choose it in the future, right? It means you're avoiding putting it as a part of your budget because if it's there, you would realize early that you don't have enough money. And sometimes people, they want to hide behind that. They're excited to start their project, and you know what? Let's just put this on the back burner. But you don't put and risk millions of dollars on the back burner. It's better to know upfront than to guessing your way through. Okay? Right? And another thing that I see, and it's another major reason why budget fail, is that the design was never tested against the reality of the budget. Right? Most people design first. Design, and then after they design the home, then they're trying to make the budget match the design. And that doesn't work. The budget has to come first, and then the design should follow the budget, not the budget is chasing the design. Anytime the budget is chasing the design, you're setting yourself up for a disaster. Okay? Right? Design can be, you can have the one of the most beautiful design. It can be functional, right? You have everything looks good, and still to be completed, it doesn't work. Okay? You can, most people have beautiful designs, open plan, great functionality, and still um, it's unaffordable. You cannot build that thing. Okay? In order to build properly, you need the budget to come first. Okay? Budget has to come before design. Okay? Um, right? Let me see if I got another slide here. I think I do. Okay? There it is. Beautiful does not equal to affordability. Okay? It doesn't mean you can afford it because it's beautiful. A lot of people have beautiful designs, but then they cannot afford it. Okay? Right? That's why we believe in a design and build. Okay? See, it says here, design fail when there is no builder review, when builder does not review the cost early. Okay? When you're working with a professional builder and they're working with you through the design phase, and I believe a builder should always, you should work with a builder or a firm who does design and construction. Because if they're responsible for design and construction, they're responsible for setting the budget. But when you go to an architect and you design the space, and then now you're chasing to find a contractor to do it and to price it, people are pricing their drawings after they already design it without knowing what it's going to cost. They're thinking in their mind, maybe I can make it work. Okay? One of the big thing that cause a lot of cost increase is complex roofs. Okay, when you have those long span and open layout, they become expensive. Okay, large opening with large windows, right? That means that design becomes expensive because now you're talking about expensive finishes. Okay, so that is where we are when it comes to design and affordability. Okay, not because you have a beautiful design, it means you can afford it. So let your design chase your budget and not to have your budget chase your design. Okay, because certain design choices can quietly explode the cost. Okay, right? A lot of, like I said, complex roofing. Large span. When you have a large span, it means you need bigger beams to stretch those big open concept. I know a lot of houses in Guyana, they put columns everywhere, but the clients that I work with, they don't want columns everywhere. Okay, right? Okay. Um, when it comes to double height spaces, because sometimes people want this grand um, interior where you have a double height, you have like 20-foot ceiling in your living room area. That becomes more expensive. Okay, so these are things you do not design to. You don't design unless you have the budget ready. Okay, right? Right. You don't design to have your for your to have your budget ready. To follow your budget. Okay, this is important because I see it every day. I talk to homeowners in Guyana, and I find the ones who's making the biggest mistakes are the ones who's already in Guyana. Some people overseas who might have built a home before or something like that, they have a little bit more experience how the process should work. Okay, right? If no builder review your design early, the budget was never protected. The design should be reviewed during the budget, the budgeting phase. They should be working hand in hand. Okay, right? Um, I see you have some questions coming in. I will answer those questions in a little bit, but right, this is a big one now that we need to talk about. Okay, because people are getting loan approvals. People are getting loan approvals, and they believe because their loan is approved, all of a sudden they're ready to build. They're ready to build a home. Okay, right? All of a sudden they're ready to build, and your that is where your budget will fail, and that is where your home will stall because you only have a foundation, wall, and roof budget. There's no window, there's no finishes included in that. No toilet, no tiles, no cabinetry, no millwork, nothing like that. Okay? And if you look at it, most of the homes that you see left standing, they're standing exactly at the roof stage. You know why? Because the budget collapsed at the expensive stage. Right at the expensive stage, that's when the budget completely collapsed in construction. Okay? Right? So having a loan approval doesn't mean you're ready to start. And this it's a big problem. Okay? You get your land. Great. Okay? Now you have a loan approval. You feel like you have the green light. But having a loan approval does not give you a green light to go. Because most loan, they're designed to start construction, not to finish construction. In my opinion, based on the people that I've spoken to in Guyana, most loans are only designed to start construction, not to finish it. Right? Because I'll tell you guys, let me tell you guys a little story right now. I have this client that I'm working with right now. They come to me with this 3,000 square foot, two-story home that they want to build in Guyana. They live in Guyana also. Have both couple have decent jobs, and they wanted to know how much it would cost to build the home. As soon as I look at the plan within 5 minutes, I know the home that they're showing me is between 60 and 70 million dollars on a good day to build that home. So I sit with them. I've had a long conversation. I explain to them. I'm like, okay, if you guys have this budget, this home can work. But if you don't have that budget, you have to do something completely different. The home needs to be redesigned, and it needs to be designed to fit your budget. No one actually talk to them about budget. They just design the home. And someone says, "Oh, I think." We cannot base on I think. We need facts. Okay? We need facts. I think it's gonna cost X is not gonna work. Okay? So I said, okay. I said, let's start with the budget side of things because before we get any further, we need to get you um, to go to the bank, sit with the loan officer, show them your plans, talk to them about your income, your expenses, and see what they can what you'll be approved at. Once we have that, and we know how much you have as a saving, then we're gonna put it together, and then we put a plan in place that is gonna work for you, your wife, and your children. A home that is for you guys. Okay? They went to the bank. The bank looked at the plan. Oh my God, this is a beautiful plan, beautiful house. How much can I get? We can give you $31 million. The guy said $31 million, but my builder said this is gonna cost about $60 million. This is some one at the bank saying no, 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 no. This cannot. This only gonna cost about $30 to $31 million. I might have some change left back. You can do something with. Someone who have never built anything in their life advising you on what it's gonna cost. Okay, the contractor is charging you. That's what they're telling the my client. The contractor is charging too much. Okay, they're like, no. I believe what the contractor is saying. I know what's included in the price. I know what I want my home to look like. I know what. Let me do something quickly because I want to show you the type of home that my client wants. This is how they want their interior to look. Okay? So take a look at my screen and can someone tell me, type in the chat, does this look like a um a 300,000 US dollar home? Not sorry, a 150,000 US dollar home? Does this look like $150,000 home? Because maybe I'm crazy, maybe because I'm used to working with, millions of dollar budget. I build a lot of luxury homes and luxury renovation, right? Tell me, type in the chat, does this look like a $150,000 home? I want to hear you guys' thoughts about it. Okay, I want to hear you guys' thoughts about it because loan start your project. They don't always finish them. Okay, and that is what I see happening in Guyana right now. The loans are only starting these projects because the banks are using outdated numbers. Okay, the banks are using outdated numbers. So basically, based on my calculation, the bank look at this gentleman home and said it's going to be $31 million. Okay, they calculate a 3,000 square foot home at 150,000 US dollars. Okay, I have someone here from in South Florida in the chat. Okay, right? $150,000 can give you something in some parts of the United States, but it's not gonna give you a 3,000 square foot home. Okay, right? I have June from South Florida. She said no. Easily a quarter of a million US dollar, yes. And you're right. And the home that I'm showing you is not even 3,000 square foot. Let's don't even talk about the finishes in that home, because you see there is a um, Wolf and Sub-Zero appliances. The appliances alone is tens of thousands of dollars just for the appliances. But we're gonna take that out of the equation, okay? Right? Most loans in Guyana, they only cover structure, okay? They only cover the structure, and that's a shame. That's why so many people end up with unfinished homes, right? Because the banks are using outdated assumptions. And when you have a bank officer telling you, you know what, um, $30 million enough, that's a big red flag. And not only that, the bank officer told him, okay, I have someone that I can refer you to that can build you this home. That's not a big red flag, because sometimes they only refer him because you know what, they want to get a kickback somehow. Okay, right? So when homeowner think I'm approved and I'm good to start, you're not good to start yet. You're not build ready as yet, right? Because approval does not equal to alignment. If your loan doesn't cover your finishes and a contingency and all of the site realities, your budget is bound to fail the moment construction begins. Okay? The moment construction begins, your budget is over, because it's only going to take it to that roof level, and then you're going to realize that you need double what you already spent. You need, if you spend 15, 20, you might need another 20 to 15, 20 to finish the home. And that's just the reality. Because for some reason in Guyana, people believe that labor is always cheaper than materials. That's not the case. You cannot calculate labor by the square footage. Labor is calculated based on the task. Okay? Based on the task. And that's why you need a professional builder to actually govern the entire process. Am I making sense, guys? Right? Am I making sense? Because, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. Right? If you don't have a contingency, guess what? Your project is going to stop 100%, because that's what a contingency is there for. Right? Construction is not predictable. A budget without a buffer or a contingency, those are fragile budgets and they usually breaks. Okay? Right? Budget fail because they don't have no flexibility. And when it comes to building, you need to have some flexibility. Okay? That's important. You need budget flexibility, because construction is not a static thing. Price changes, conditions change. Sometimes the time moves. Okay? And anytime any of those things happen, it eventually causes your budget to break if you don't have a contingency in place. Okay? And I always said this to my clients. This is what I always said to them. I said, a budget with zero buffer or contingency, it's not discipline. It's fragile. Okay? If you don't have that, you have a very fragile budget. And things that are fragile, they usually breaks. And when your budget breaks, your project stops. When your project stops, it's more expensive to start it later. Okay? Okay? Right? And when you go going through construction, the first surprise, it doesn't cause stress. Okay, it just causes your job to stop. Okay, you stop, you have to wait for something. But then what happened after that? When you can't start? When you have two stoppage, three stoppage, four stoppage. After a while, it just stop and it never restarts. Right? And I'll tell you something. I'll tell you. I'll tell you the hard truth that most people don't want to hear. Budget failure is not because of one big mistake, right? But it's because of multiple small assumptions. Okay? When you assuming things, all these small, you assume the windows are gonna cost $15,000 each or $20,000 each. You assume that the the floor is gonna cost X per square foot. All of these small assumptions, okay, end up turn into a big problem, right? So we have to keep that in mind, okay? Right? Because sometimes people, you know what, they they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to get into it because they know if they get into it, the project they wouldn't start the project, and that's a fear thing. You know what I mean? Be scared. You should be afraid to start. Most people are excited to start, right? If you don't have everything in place, do not start construction, right? And if you ask most people, they would say something like, "Oh, we don't know what went wrong." Those are the answers that you get. What happened? How come you can't finish the house? I don't know what went wrong. All of a sudden, I had money and the money is gone. Right? But I know exactly what went wrong. Right? What went wrong was the budget never told the full story. That's exactly what went wrong. Okay? The budget did not tell the full story. And you want the budget to tell the full story from start, from foundation to roof to finish. Okay? I want you guys to do me a favor. Okay? I want you guys to do me a favor. And I want you to ask yourself this honestly. Okay? Ask yourself this honestly. Right? Do I know exactly what finishes are included? That's the first question. Do you know exactly what finishes are included? Right? Question number two. Has the design been reviewed for cost deficiencies? Ask yourself that question because this is important. Was the design cost checked? You have to do these things. You know, do you know what your loan covers? Does it cover everything? And if you don't have a full, a complete budget, you would not know that. Okay? And most importantly, you need to ask yourself, do I have room for price changes? Ask yourself those questions, right? And if you can answer yes to all five, your budget needs work. If you cannot answer yes to all five of these questions, your budget needs work. Okay? You have to be honest with yourself. Okay? And not because you don't answer yes to all of them, it's fine. That's not a failure. Okay? That's just information. And it's better for you to ask those questions early. Ask yourself the real question. And when you find the answer to them, you work towards getting a yes. That's one of the reasons why I do these videos, because I want people to be informed. I don't want people to be caught off guard, because people would say stuff in the comments to me, it's too expensive. They can bill for X, they can bill for Y. That's fine. But I would ask one question: is it finished? Right? And if homes were cheap to build in Guyana, there wouldn't be so many unfinished houses everywhere. So for all of you guys who are watching this live, I want you to answer those questions honestly. Okay? Right? Answer those questions honestly, because you have to be honest with yourself. Right? I have another question that I want you guys to. Let me pin something in the chat. Let me pin something in the chat, because most people, they try not to answer certain questions because they know what the answer might be. Okay? Does your current budget finish your home, or it only get you to the starting point? I want you to answer that question honestly. That's an honest, straight up question. Okay? Right? If you're not sure, put it in there. Right? If you're not sure, just say you're not sure. That's fine. We'll work through that. We'll make sure by the time you're ready to build, you're 100% ready. You have everything in place, because that's where planning begins. When you can answer the question honestly, we say, yes, okay, great, no problem. Right? That's where planning actually begins. Okay? Right? Yeah, someone put Bill ready put Bill ready in the chat, guys. Daniel, let me try to answer some of these questions that you guys have here. I see there's some question here. Daniel from Virginia, Virginia. So, June says, keep talking, because we are not living in our grandparents and our great grandparents era, right? Any longer. So you are bringing real value and a change of the mindset. I appreciate that, June. Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Right? That is what we need to do. We cannot just say things because we cannot say what people want to hear. My goal is to tell you the truth. And if the truth hurts, that's not a problem. Okay? Whether it hurts or not, we have to live with the truth. And I always said the truth would always hurt more than a lie. It's a great question. What's the cost difference between a bungalow roof and a flat roof? I'm seeing I'm seeing new one built in Guyana adopting the flat roof. Okay? So when it comes to when it comes to flat roof, if you want to do a proper flat roof usually costs more than your traditional gable roof. I know you guys call it bungalow roof. Bungalow is Bungalow mean a single story home. It's not a type of roof, okay? But back home they call it a bungalow roof, okay? I understand why they do, right? Bungalow is a single story home. But that style of traditional style gable roof, right? Depends on the material that you're using. If you're using shingle, you're using steel, you're using slate or clay, right? The price would be different, okay? If you're building a modern house, most modern house people want to use flat roof because it makes it modern. Okay, right? So the cost can be a lot different when it comes to doing a proper flat roof that is not going to leak. Someone says, is importing all of your finishes and fixtures from China on your own worth it? Or the cost would not be very much if you just purchase the finishes in Guyana. Here's the thing. In order to import from China efficiently, you have to import in bulk. Okay? Right? And also you need to know the quality because China have different quality. China have super high quality and they have the low cheap quality that you find in a lot of stores here in Guyana. Okay? It is something that you can do, but it's not the same. If you before all of these tariff, right? Importing the entire home finishes from China to United States was an amazing thing. From China to Canada, from China to United States was amazing. Okay, it's closer, and there's more shipment coming to United States from China than there are shipment going to Guyana from China. Okay, right? So it can work, but you have to be careful with that. Okay, we are importing finishes from China. Okay, but we importing in bulk. Okay, full container loads. Okay, for different projects at the same time. So it's more efficient that way. But if you're gonna import just for your single home, it can end up costing you more because shipping from China is very expensive to Guyana. Okay, right? Let me see what else we have here. It says, I'm watching this on behalf of my friend's dad. It's an excellent session. I'm a project manager and everything resonates. I hope you're making this available later. Yes, I will make it live. It will be on the channel after the live stream is done, and so you can go back and rewatch it. Okay, right? So everybody put Bill ready in the chat, guys. Put Bill ready in the chat because I'm trying to get you guys Bill ready. Okay, that's my goal to get you guys build ready, right? So let's put Bill ready in the chat. Before I go, I want to leave you guys with this. A budget that only looks good on paper is dangerous. Okay? Because the goal in 2026 is not to start strong. It's to finish without panic. Right? Strong budget are detailed. Okay? Strong budgets, they are honest. They don't miss anything. Right? Strong budgets, they are boring. And that's a good thing. You want to have a boring budget. You don't want to have an exciting budget because those are the ones that's gonna leave you with an unfinished home. Right? On the next live, we're gonna talk about the difference between a skeleton budget and a finished home budget. Okay? We're gonna go over that. The difference between a skeleton budget and a finished home budget. Because the gap is not what most people think they are. Right? That is where the gap between a skeleton and a finished home, that is where most people get trapped. Okay? So, guys, I want to say thank you. I'm grateful that all of you guys here and you contribute to this live stream. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on the next live stream. Have a good night, guys. Type Bill ready in the chat.